Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday evening, which means it's match preview show, and I am pleased to say that for the second time this season, I am joined by Scottish-based Plymouth fan Stephen McIlkenny. I'll put his Twitter details in the description at the bottom of the video at the end. We're going to have a chat, look back over the season so far for both us and the Pilgrims. Obviously, since that narrow 1-0 win for Plymouth back in the summer, seems a long time ago now, seasons have gone in very different directions for both clubs. But first of all, Stephen, appreciate you taking the time out your evening to come and talk to me yet again.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me.
No, be a pleasure. So, right, let's get straight into this. Last six in the league for both teams. I've said this a couple of times. Do not adjust your sets, Gills fans. I am going to say the word win in the last six for the first time in what feels like forever. Last half dozen games for not Steve Evans' men, Neil Harris's men. There's been 2 wins, 2 draws and 2 defeats. So it's 8 points from the last 18 available. In terms of Plymouth, slightly better. It's 10 points from the last half dozen games. That's a trio of wins, which have all come in the last 3. They were preceded before that by a single draw and a pair of defeats. In terms of home and away, Gills have just started to pick up again under Neil Harris. There's been back-to-back wins, and before that, there was 2 defeats, then a draw and another loss. And Plymouth on the road, very solid, 10 points out of 18 again. So it's exactly the same as their form over the last 6 overall. It's 3 wins, a solitary draw, and a couple of defeats. And weirdly, Stephen, in the last couple of weeks, you've played teams that we've played, and it's been similar results. I was having a look at your fixtures compared to ours. You've beaten Shrewsbury, you've beaten Crewe. We drew with Shrewsbury, should have beaten them, had loads of chances. I think we hit the bar late on, just couldn't get it over the line. We've beaten Crewe. Also recently, you've beaten Doncaster. We beat Doncaster back in the autumn. And I was having a look. It's only once on the road that you failed to score in the league this season. Is that correct? Charlton, by my recollection.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Charlton. We even scored it the last home away game I can remember. I think we didn't score with Sunderland. I think we scored then as well. So, yeah, I mean, feeling somewhat optimistic, I guess, and pleased about the season overall. Yeah,
we'll get onto that in more detail in a little while. But yeah, it's not a season that I envisaged Plymouth having. I'm not going to lie. I thought based on what we saw last season defensively, you were all over the show. Obviously, when I did my season preview video, it was before the window had closed, and you went and bought really solidly after I'd recorded, so made me look like a bit of a mug. There's a couple of defensive players we'll speak about later in the vlog, but on the flip side, only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 6, so it could make for an interesting game. Gills have suddenly made themselves look more solid defensively. We made, after conceding ridiculous amounts of goals. Steve Evans' last game we conceded 4. Steve Lovell then came in on interim basis, conceded 3, then kept a clean sheet, and then got hit for 7 by Oxford, which proved to be his last game. But all of a sudden, 2 clean sheets in 4 games under Neil Harris. So it does have the makings of an intriguing contest. And I'm not sure whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I think I read the other day that Plymouth have not won at the Priestfield since 1981. But records are there to be broken. So I might have dreamt it, but I'm pretty sure I read it on social media. But the season we've had up until Neil Harris come in, I'd have said that record would definitely go. But in terms of your squad, you just seem to have been solid all over the park all season long. There doesn't seem to be, if you went down the list, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, if you look through it, there's not anyone that you'd go, he could go and play top end championship, but you've got plenty of very good players that are solid League One pros that are all doing a job. They all know their role within the system. They've had to contend with a managerial change. Obviously, you lost, I've forgotten his name.
Ryan
Lowe midway through the season, but it's not really been of any detriment to the team, the performances or the results. You've got a goal threat. Ryan Hardy, 12 in 25 in the league. I had a look earlier. Luke Jeffcott, slightly quieter than I actually realised because he was very good last season as well. He's got 8 in 25, but still going along at 1 in 3 in the league, which is 15 league goals in a season, is not to be sniffed at. How good have them two been, and how big a part have they played in obviously your charge towards the playoff area?
Yeah, I mean they have, and I think, to be honest with you, you've already kind of touched on what I think, in my opinion, is the biggest thing that's impacted our playoff push. And that is the fact that we had a talented manager who bought into a system that the players were building towards, and players were being tailored for that system. and that manager has departed, but obviously the assistant manager who was under Ryan Lowe has taken over. And as a result, the system's not really changed. Yes, there's an adjustment, but it's not quite the same adjustment that you necessarily need when you need a new manager bounce. And there's not been a sort of adjustment has been, someone coming in and ripping up the playbook. You're not replacing Potts with Big Sam, for example, where it's styles clash. So things have remained as consistent as you can get, and as a result of that, you're seeing players like Ryan Hardy, like Jephcott, as you've rightly said, linking up, creating good partnerships together, etc. And that's very much stayed the same, especially being when you've got young players like that playing in the same system they already know. Nothing has really changed apart from the manager on the team sheet, etc. So that's been, I think, the most crucial thing from an Argyle point of view so far this season. I also think that in the last couple of games, Ipanic Kamara came back from the AFCON, a massive influence in the team. And then you've got, the players that go under the radar, Joe Edwards, etc. So you've got a lot of, really talented players that I think are doing the job quietly, honest pros, who have been, targeted by the club to come in and do a job. And I think you kind of see it in, certain teams when they come out of nowhere almost, when, there's been that time, a year and a half almost, of players being together. I think I said at the start of the summer when we were on, it does feel like a lifetime ago in these uncertain times, but I think I said that, the issue for Argyle has been, or this season before, was defensively. We can always believe we're going to score goals, but, defence was a bit of an issue. And, we've solidified that. Plus, when you take into account the young talent they have, like Mike Cooper in goal, really stepping up and becoming more seasoned pros. So it's certainly been, a team effort. And I think that, the players, there isn't really a standout player, as you rightfully say, but if you just have to look through the goals and through the goal scorers themselves, you see Jordan Garrick with 6, Connor Grant with 6, I think, as well, and then Peniche Kamara with 4, Joe Edwards, stepping up now and again, but you can actually see there's goals littered throughout the team. There's no sort of focal point, which actually makes Argyle quite hard to stop when they play fluid attacking football. So yeah, a very long-winded answer there, but it's
spot on. I see what you're saying, because then it means if one of your front two has an off day, then you're not just relying on the other one to bag your goals, because you've got goals from midfield, wing back, and all that type of thing as well. Where if you look at, for instance, like a Cole Stockton, maybe at Morecambe, 21 goals, been brilliant. Morecambe, I hope they stay up as long as it's not at Gills' expense. But I think if you took him out of that team for a long period of time, they would struggle quite badly, because he's scoring a high percentage of their goals, like Joe Pigott did for a couple of seasons at Wimbledon. So I think, like you've already said it, but it makes sense that if Jephcott has a bad day, you think Hardy will score or at least create a chance, and if they both do, you might pinch one from midfield, and then if you're defensively solid, you don't need to score lots of goals to win points.
Yeah, I mean, the last game we played there, I don't think anyone would go Connor Grant would be your odds-on first goal scorer at home to Shrewsbury, but that's kind of the level that you need to do to keep that form up, the promotion form, etc., or playoff pushing form. And I think there's something like 8 or 9 players in the league have scored more than 1 goal for Argyle. So now, of course, if you take away Jephcott and Hardy, of course you're going to struggle. But the point is that there's goals and a style of attacking football that is above the players that are on the pitch, and I think it's crucially important from an Argyle point of view. And it shows that keeping a system for, say, a year and a half, 2 years, and building something rather than building a project with one manager is a really important and possibly a way to revolutionize getting out of lower leagues. Giving a bit of patience, giving youth a chance, and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, similar lines to thankfully what Neil Harris has been saying about us since he's come in. He wants to make the youth team and the path to the first team a lot closer. He wants to bring the 2 squads closer together, so there's opportunities for the younger people, the players, to train with the first team. He's not necessarily going to come in and play loads of games, but at least they're in and around that first team environment. And if it's, like you say, if there's a method to the whole club rather than it being sort of 2 separate entities, then that can only help if you do need them youth players and them youngest pros to come in and help out if you do get injuries and suspensions. You touched on defensive solidity, though, and I want to have a chat about that, because I backed Plymouth to really struggle this season. Yes, I did have them to go down. Dan Scarr, James Wilson have proved to be 2 really, really clever pieces of business. I think Scarr arrived from Walsall, is that correct?
Yeah.
And James Wilson you picked up from Ipswich.
Mm-hmm.
just how good have they been? Because you play, is it a back? It's like a 3-5-2, 5-3-2, depending whether you're with or without the ball. Or
Yeah, and it's pretty fluid. I mean, Dan Scarr was scouted in January and signed in the summer. So again, it shows that longevity and that approach. But I think, as I said to you at the start, the issue for Argyle has been defensively. We're leaking goals, and it was really refreshing to see. I think I was slightly optimistic about our chances. I maybe didn't think playoffs would be the best we could get, but I was quite optimistic based on the signings and how we'd been performing under the way we've been playing. But yeah, I mean, Dan Scarr's been really good for us. You've had Macaulay Gillespie as well. I mean, signed from the A League, and kind of thinking, what are you going to get with that? And it's been really sort of really impressive. And James Wilson also was the Ipswich Player of the Year, I think, at the time, and when he left. So a good few signings from an Argyle point of view, and done relatively early, given time for him to settle in, can play to that system that we're looking to play, and it has been a much better defensive display across the season. You used to always think Argyle would have to score just to win a game. The way they play was so expansive, and it left them so exposed that it was kind of natural to happen. When you've got attacking wing backs, etc. It was always going to be a bit of an issue. It has become a lot more solid. I mean, to the point of when we were playing Chelsea in the FA Cup, you thought, well, Chelsea are going to struggle here to score, and they had about £200 million of talent on at the end. Obviously, we were quite unlucky there as well with the penalty miss, but a lot of things about how Argyle are set up defensively, is built on a solid foundation, which creates that base for attack, which is also why I think they have quite a good away record, because when you go away from home, you need to see out the first 10-15 minutes of the game, not concede early, try and build yourself into it, maybe hit a team in the counter. If you play passing football, you're going to have more of a ball, maybe tired legs, etc. So all of those things play into it, and it's about that ethos and finding the players that can fit that system, which thankfully Argyle have done this season.
You've almost touched on my next question, and you've said you didn't expect it to be as successful perhaps as it has been. I think you currently sit 7th, so you're right in the mix in terms of the top 6 battle going into the final third of the season. Regardless of what happens here, though, from here on in, though, Stephen, you can only say it's been a successful season. I mean, unless you lose the last 14 or something ridiculous like that and the form falls off a cliff. But even if you finish sort of 9th, 10th, 11th, it'd still be a massively progressive campaign, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think it takes, Argyle almost went out of business chasing the Premier League dream. I want a club to be run sustainably and in an efficient way that is going to, as long as it results in progress eventually, or progress to an end. And you just need to look at, Argyle's season so far. The start they had, the football they were playing was just electric. Really impressive performances across the board, and building in players into it. I was optimistic, that the playoffs, finishing in the playoffs would be the best kind of chance we could get. When we were sitting top of the league, I don't think any Argyle fan kind of thought, oh, this is going to last, especially when you look at the fixtures we had. I think we played, Wigan, Wycombe and Rotherham and Sunderland all in the space of 4 weeks, and MK Dons in the mix as well. They were all quite quick and close together. So we had a good run of fixtures based on that, which was maybe a false position. And obviously the manager change can happen before those fixtures as well, which wasn't ideal. I think Schumacher had 17 out of 30 potential points, for example. But I think, we're looking like we're going to take a step up from last season. If we get in and around the playoffs, that could be a good opportunity for Argyle. It's not an easy place to come to, and they do have a good basis of form. And yourself as well, form in this league is the main thing. You can see teams that win 5 or 6 games, they are going 17-game unbeaten runs and then lose 4 in a bounce. There's no rhyme or reason to League One, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what attracts so many people to it. But I do think that optimistically, Argyle could maybe stay there or thereabouts. I think I back Rotherham to go up top, which looks like it's going to happen, or maybe Wigan as well. So I think those 2 positions are out of reach, especially with games Wigan has in hand. And it's all about potentially getting into the playoffs, but it's a big if. But yeah, as you say, undoubtedly Argyle are looking at progress. And also, if you look at the talent that the club's produced from its own academy that have made it into the first team and are featuring regularly, it depends how you also define progress, because after that Chelsea display, for example, would you be surprised to see Michael Cooper go to the Championship for a 6-7 figure fee? maybe not. He's got 4 or 5 years left in his contract, etc. So it's how do you define progress? Do you sacrifice, say, a playoff position, but the club gets a sort of glamour tie in the FA Cup, and in seasons or youth academy or whatever. There's a lot to be positive about Argyle, and it comes back to how the club's run off the field as much as it is on it.
Yeah, it sounds like you say, the benefit, if you're giving people the benefit of time and you allow that continuity, then success almost organically grows, doesn't it, relatively speaking? Like you said, you're not the top two. I think I have to agree. I think the top two will a long way now. Rotherham are points clear. Wigan have got too many games in hand, and they're too good a team to fail to pick up a substantial amount of points in them game in hand. But aside from that, you've played the least games in the top half, along with Portsmouth, I think, and obviously they're a fair way behind you. So hopefully we dent your ambitions at the weekend. But even if you did drop points or get beat, you're still going to be right in the mix, because you've got at least 1 or 2 games in hand over the likes of Sunderland, MK Dons. You've even got a game in hand over Wickham immediately above you, 2 in hand over Oxford, who are just below you. Ipswich have played 32 as well. So you're still going to be right in the mix. Right, on to Saturday more immediately, rather than an overall view. Team news, have you got any? Is there anything that's come out of the club? I know we're recording on a Wednesday, so it's probably a day early to find anything. But what do you think the team will be that's going to line up come 3 o'clock Saturday in Kent?
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be, kind of similar to the Argyle team we've been seeing the last couple of weeks. Stephen Sessegnon, Ryan Sessegnon's sibling, I think, was in the press saying, he's ready to kind of come back from his fitness concerns, etc. But I think it's going to be, relatively untouched. I'm not too sure there's been many injuries. I think Jordan Houghton was the only one that came off, I think, or there's a few subs, but I don't think he came off injured. I think it was just a few came off, and the strike force came off against Shrewsbury to try and freshen things up. So I imagine it'll be, Gillespie, Wilson, Edwards, and Grant, etc., and then Kamara and Danny Mayer with Jeff Conhardy up front. Maybe Ennis, depending on how we look to play. But I don't think there'll be many. There won't be many raised eyebrows at the lineup from Argyle. I would very much expect it to be, one of the consistent ones we've seen throughout the season. And obviously, with Kamara being away at AFCON, I was debating, thought maybe he might take a few weeks to come back, but it's not really happened. So, no, I don't expect to see any real surprises.
I just noticed one player, obviously, that was a former Gills loanee, and that's Jordan Houghton. Obviously, it was a few years ago that he played for us. I think he came to us start of the 2015-16 season when we had, I think, when we was in the playoffs right up until the 43rd game of the campaign, and somehow managed to mess it up. But he was very young then. What's the fan base's opinion of Jordan Houghton now? Now with the benefit of lots of experience now.
He's a relatively popular player. He's a decent performer. I actually think he might be one that's maybe not playing. He's one yellow card away, I think, from a ban. So he might not feature, but I don't see why he wouldn't. But I mean, he's been a consistent performer for Argyle. Not a regular starter every week, but he's been a regular performer when he comes on. And I think that's one of the important things as well, is that Argyle have been performing regularly at a high level, and it takes a squad for it. So yeah, no real issues, I think, across the board with any of the players. Houghton's one of them as well.
Right. In terms of Gills, like I've said, there's been no press conference. That'll be done on Thursday morning, lunchtime. So we're sort of having a guess. But in terms of injuries for the Gills, we know we've got no Danny Lloyd. We know we've got no Alex McDonald. I think there's a chance that the likes of Ben Reeve, Mustafa Carriol and Gerald Sotole might be involved, but whether they're fit enough to start, I'm not sure. So for me, similar to what you're saying, Stephen, I can't see the team really changing from the draw up at Morecambe last weekend. And Neil Harris has certainly been clever in the way he's lined us up. He's aware that he's got people in the final third of the park that are unavailable through injury, so he's had to make us defensively solid like you are, to give ourselves a chance, because we're not going to score bundles of goals. We're averaging, I think we scored 26 in the league this season, which tells you all you need to know, and that's why we're struggling. But if we can keep a clean sheet or only concede one, then we'll obviously give ourselves a chance of getting something from the game. So for me, I think the team will be exactly the same as last Saturday. So it'll be Aaron Chapman in goal. The back three will be Connor Masterson, Max Amar and Jack Tucker. The only question mark I had was Ryan Jackson came off the bench last week and scored a really good goal against Morecambe. David Tatonda's similarly to Jordan Houghton's picked up a couple of bookings in recent games, so I'm not sure how many he's up to. So we might see maybe Ryan Jackson come in at right wing back and Robbie McKenzie switch to the other side. The middle three, I think, would be the same, which would be Ollie Lee, Stuart O'Keefe and Ben Thompson. Plenty of experience in there. And Verdane Oliver has to start, top scorer. Probably our best chance of getting out of this conundrum that we're currently in, sat third bottom. And I'd imagine that Tom Dixon-Peters will retain his place. He had a decent 80 minutes or so, I think it was, up north last weekend. So that would be my starting 11. I wouldn't change it too much. Like I say, we've only lost once in 4 games since Harris came in, and the game that we did lose was probably the best performance of all 4 of them, ironically, up at Portman Road. Right, final big question before I let you go. That's how we always finish. The dreaded score prediction.
I just realised that just before I realised, I just totally, Dan Scarr apparently is facing an injury. Actually, I forgot about that, so he might not feature. So it'll be interesting to see. No, I don't know. I think that Argyle will win. I do think that, and I'm basing this purely off our last couple of away performances as well. You know, we've been relatively decent on the road. I think the Chelsea game is a bit of a distraction, if I'm honest. I think it's good to have it out the way. I think it'll be 3-1 if I have to be, you know, betting on it. But I do think that it's also one of those games where a few weeks ago I'd have been sitting going, I'd expect to win. I wouldn't be surprised if Argyle didn't win. Yeah, I think that's testament to how, you know, Gillingham are coming along. But yeah, if I'm being honest about it, I think Argyle will win it.
It's fair enough. I wouldn't expect you to not back your team to win when you're sat 7th and we're sat 22nd. But I'm going to be more positive. Defensively, we look a completely different outfit to what we did a month ago under Steve Evans and Steve Lovell. I'm praying that stat about no Plymouth win since 1981 in Kent is correct, and hopefully it continues for a few more days at least. I'm going to say Gillingham 1, Plymouth 1, score draw, which will give us a chance, keeps us in touch at the bottom, keeps you in touch with terms of the top 6, and we can all carry on happy at 5 o'clock.
Well, to be fair, I mean, if anyone needs to find comfort in my prediction, I forgot our bloody centre back was potentially out, so you know you can find comfort in that. But all I can say, it's been a very long day. But no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you think of the last one, I think the last time we chatted, you know, I think we both said that you'd expect to be goals, and there was 88 minutes of just, you know, deadlock. So, you know, things don't always go to script, especially, you know, at home park. I was pretty confident of a win then as well. So, I'm trying to give your viewers hope here. I don't know why.
No, that's fine. I like it. Keep it coming. It's fine. We shall find out come 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Once again, thanks to Stephen for taking the time out of his evening to come and have a chat and give us all the lowdown that we need on Plymouth Argyle. Myself and Boz will return Saturday afternoon. I'm hopefully Stocky will be with us as well to do a match day live. You know where we are: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course we're on YouTube. Comment down below at the end of this video. Let us know what you think your team's lineup will be, whether you're a Plymouth fan or a Gills fan. Let us know your score predictions. Please keep checking us out, doing all the usual, liking, subscribing, retweeting, and all of that. You know what to do now. We've been doing this long enough. It is nearly the weekend. We will see you Saturday afternoon. But until then, up the Gills.